The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'm very pleased to rise in strong support of Bill C-305. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the honourable member for Nepean for his hard work in bringing forward this important and much-needed legislation. Madam Speaker, Bill C-305 seeks to amend Section 430 of the Criminal Code. Section 430 of the Criminal Code makes it a criminal offense for an individual to commit an act of mischief motivated by hate, targeted at a group, and carried out on religious property, whether that property be a church, synagogue, temple, or cemetery, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Bill C-305 seeks to expand Section 430 of the Criminal Code to include other types of property, whether it be a school or other educational facility, or a cultural or community facility, or a seniors facility, or other facility. Regretfully, Madam Speaker, Bill C-305 could not be more timely. Recently, we have seen a spike in anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, racist vandalism in Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and other centres throughout Canada. Just last week, as the honourable member for Nepean alluded to, we saw peaceful Jews, Muslims, and black Christians targeted by a criminal with a string of hateful vandalism. Madam Speaker, Bill C-305 seeks to close a void in the criminal code that presently exists under Section 430. The fact is, Madam Speaker, that if an individual commits an act of mischief motivated by hate towards a particular group and carried out on a religious property, such as a house of worship, that individual would be subject to being charged and prosecuted and convicted under Section 430 of the Criminal Code. If convicted, that individual would be subject to a penalty of imprisonment for up to 10 years. By contrast, if the same individual committed the same act of mischief motivated by the same hate, targeted at the same group, but carried out not on religious property, but at a school or a recreational facility or a seniors facility, that person would not be able to be charged under Section 430 of the Criminal Code and not subject to a penalty of imprisonment for up to 10 years. Most likely, that individual would be subject to prosecution under the general mischief provisions of the Criminal Code, where the maximum penalty is up to 2 years. Madam Speaker, acts of mischief motivated by hate towards a particular group, whether it be on the basis of gender, race, ethnicity, and so on, are not general acts of mischief. Madam Speaker, they are much, much worse. They are acts of hate. They are acts of hate designed to intimidate and terrorize a particular community. It is precisely for that reason that under Section 430 of the Criminal Code, an individual who commits an act of mischief motivated by hate targeted at a group on religious property is subject to imprisonment for up to 10 years, not 2 years. Madam Speaker, Bill C-305 closes the loophole that presently exists in the Criminal Code by ensuring that anyone who commits an act of mischief motivated by hate towards a particular group will be subject to Section 430 of the Criminal Code and subject to a penalty of up to 10 years imprisonment whether they carry out that act of mischief at a religious facility or a school or community center or other facility, Madam Speaker. And we know, Madam Speaker, that so often acts of mischief motivated by hate are carried out in places other than strictly religious institutions or other religious property. Indeed, when we look at the very sad events last week in Ottawa, we saw, yes, a church that was targeted, and we saw 2 synagogues that were targeted, but we also saw the Muslim Association of Ottawa that was targeted, as well as a Jewish teaching school. This past July, a community center, a Jewish community center outside of Montreal, had graffiti spray painted on its doors. In 2004, the United Talmud Torah School in Montreal was firebombed. Madam Speaker, there are hundreds and hundreds of other examples in the past number of years. Madam Speaker, we as Canadians take pride in our collective diversity, and the values of tolerance and inclusivity are Canadian values. But the fact remains that crimes motivated by hate continue to occur in Canada, and sadly, Madam Speaker, they occur with regularity. Indeed, according to Statistics Canada, in 2014, nearly 1,300 hate crimes were reported. Those were just the reported hate crimes, and we know from Statistics Canada that the vast majority of hate crimes are not reported. And of the hate crimes that have been reported, some 60% or nearly 60% involve mischief. Madam Speaker, based on those very troubling statistics, it is evident that we have a lot of work to do collectively as Canadians to combat the scourge of hate. Madam Speaker, as we undertake that work, we must not be complacent, we must not turn a blind eye, we must be vigilant, and we must be proactive, and we must call out hate when we see it by shining the light on the darkness of hate. And Madam Speaker, as parliamentarians, we have a responsibility to ensure that individuals who perpetrate crimes motivated by hate are held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Madam Speaker, Bill C-305 is a step in that direction. Let us support Bill C-305 and make sure that this legislation is passed as soon as possible.